Hi, welcome to the DevReady podcast. My name is Andrew Romeo, and I'd like to welcome my co-host as well, Anthony Sapunzas. Today, we interviewed Mellonie Francis. Mellonie is the co-founder of Fine Book Beauty, and began her tech journey as a non-tech. She really didn't have the capacity to deliver her own technology. And through this podcast, you'll learn about what approach she took to actually get to the outcome of now having a MVP in the marketplace, and continuing to grow that product and looking to raise capital behind it. During that journey, Melanie had some twists and turns and trials and tribulations in terms of working with advisors and different tech teams. And eventually, as she would say, got lucky, but I would say had more experience. Found a team that she could get along with, that actually knew what her vision was and were able to deliver upon it. Enjoy the podcast. Melanie shares some fascinating insights, and I'm sure you will get a lot out of it. Hi, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Andrew and Anthony here, and we've got a special guest, Melanie Francis, with us today. Melanie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Melanie first started her journey in digital with Fine Books Beauty. That's a startup that you went into. So, love to just have a bit of a chat about that and your journey through that process and what sort of learnings you found. So, tell us a bit about Fine Book Beauty.
Okay, Fine Book Beauty is the same as similar to Airbnb, but for
Okay.
beauty services. I
Hmm.
always think, one word explanations is the best way to get things rolling, but essentially we help beauty professionals and specializing with independent beauty professionals, helping them get customers, manage those booking, and giving them a platform to collect payments and
Hmm.
protect them from those late cancellation fees.
Okay, so and in terms of that product now, that's operational, or is it still in startup sort of mode?
Yes, that's been operational for the last 2 years.
Okay.
So I first did an MVP, a very basic MVP using Squarespace and some other plugins that I would like research up about and start plugging in, and paying lots of monthly fees to
Hmm.
get that working. And then we did a custom build on that, on using, a full Laravel framework,
Yep.
with WordPress as well, just for the blogging part,
Hmm.
and full customized platform for the full booking. It's a booking engine capability as well.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
Okay.
um, so yeah, we launched that last year in November. So it's had 12 months
Hmm.
now
Hmm.
in product, in bookings and everything.
Okay.
So
So
was the full custom build just to move away from like the monthly fees that you're paying, or was it to try and set up another business with the booking engine
Well,
as a
the thing
product?
is with the plugins, it just wasn't working the way I wanted. So for example, like I still had to manually pay out each person. I didn't get the
Ah,
benefit
okay.
of the automation. So now obviously I have the full payout
Yep.
set up. So, like all those benefits like Stripe and everything didn't,
Hmm.
you wouldn't be able to do the connects and everything like that
Yep.
on the Squarespace sort of side. It was just, very early stage MVP product that
mhm.
Yep.
had limitations. Yeah.
Oh, very
Ah,
good.
cool.
So when you developed the Squarespace site, was that done by yourself, or did you get some people helping you do that?
I did it myself,
Nice
and
job.
I had
Well done.
my my sister is a software engineer
Hmm.
as well. Like she was studying at the time, she wasn't like any tech, but
Yep.
she helped with some HTML, because we wanted to customize as well the Squarespace. And then I started really getting into it and reading a lot of forums and applying the plugins and finding plugins. As I was seeing her do it, I was like trying to mimic her behavior a lot,
Yep.
Hmm.
but I didn't really know that I was even into tech because I didn't even know how to build a website, let alone what was Squarespace at that time. And she said,
Interesting.
you can just use this thing to get it up. And then I started really getting into reading a lot of forums and realizing a lot of people in dev, that's what they sit there and do.
Yep.
I
A lot of research.
It's all about
thought it was
research and
just
asking
me, but
questions.
no, that's
No.
what happens
A
in
lot of
product.
research.
Yeah,
How long have you
research.
been developing, Anthony?
Oh, it's
And
12 years we've been doing
copying
this.
snippets of code over
Yep.
there and like
Yep.
pushing it into there and going, is it gonna work or isn't it gonna work,
Yeah,
kind
that's
of thing.
exactly the process. Until you've done that a few times, you know that little bit of code works, and then you
Yes.
start all
Yeah,
over
and then
again.
you're like, it's broken. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I've broken the whole site and I'll be freaking out.
Yeah,
Um,
and you just left a comma out or something very simple.
Yes, but that's fine because I've seen people now in my team also do that as well.
Yeah.
So now
Yes.
I'm not feeling so bad about myself that
Yeah.
I'm not that
I
not
know that happens to everyone. That's just development. That's what happens.
yeah, yeah.
So when you went down the, all right, so you got this Squarespace site, you got some limitations around what it was. You decided to jump into, let's build something custom. What made that decision come about? Was it the limitations, or was it your sister sort of guiding the fact that, okay, we can probably do this better?
Yeah, I think for me at that point, I felt like that MVP product was good, but I really couldn't test out like the payout, the payment, which is what investors really care about
Mhm.
is are you getting bookings?
Yes.
And I and then the other problem was that every time we got a booking, we would have to call the artist and see are they free? And then there was like this whole manual process
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
it. And I was working full time at the same time and I was doing this at night. So it's not like I could just call at a normal time and go, hey, this person is free at this time. Like it would be a lot of back and forward. I did consider, things like Share Tribe. Everyone was saying, oh, that might be the way. But I think everything seemed like it had like that I was reading, it had its limitations. Like
Mm.
it could never get you to really test what would be the product in the way I saw it, which was very much like Airbnb. So that's why I was like, okay, I think I have to go the custom route because I'd had a few bookings. So I'd
Hmm.
proved
Hmm.
up in the MVP. I'd done a lot of questionnaires as well, where everyone was saying like 90% of the market was saying, yes, we would use this product. So for me, it was like, I really need to get a real MVP
Hmm.
with real ability to collect money rather than tell people, yes, I did this booking, which was not captured within a data. So
Okay.
from an investment point of view as well, that you need to show, yes, the data is there and I am collecting, not just in Excel that I was like,
Yeah, it's a
every.
custom process. Yeah, you want to follow it all through, get it. Okay.
Mm.
So now you're in that position. You're basically, all right, we need to build something for ourselves. What was your next step? Did you go out, find a development team? What did you do?
Yeah, that was like one of the hardest things. So me and my sister, we started basically Googling everyone in Australia,
Okay.
and
Yep.
then we started like searching for, we started looking at if we liked their websites first
Yes.
and if their websites looked really good or not.
Uh-huh.
And then we started like, and then because my sister was a software engineer, I was very lucky. So she actually put together a documentation with
Hmm.
wireframing that she'd
Hmm.
drawn up because
Okay.
she'd learned that first semester of uni.
Yep.
Nice.
That was probably the first thing you learned. So she put together this really nice document saying, this is what we want to achieve, and these would be the features, and it was easy to understand. And she started sending that around to a lot of the development team in Sydney, in
Okay.
Melbourne as well.
Hmm.
We reached out to um, and then some people came back and some people didn't because the development teams I think we were reaching out to, like they were either very big or they
Yes.
didn't take it seriously.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I would think many people maybe don't get responses when they do reach out to development teams for these kind of projects because ours looked much more serious than a non-tech person would
Yes.
look what I would put out, which would be a couple of lines.
Yeah.
And we had put out a document saying, and we'd even said this is a deadline we want you to submit
Hmm.
by, um, which and it got back some responses,
Yes.
and we started meeting with those people, and it was the prices were very very varied and very high. So we obviously talked to Appstar at the
Hmm.
time because
Yep.
Appstar was like such a big company back then.
Yep.
Hmm.
We got quoted like anywhere from 250,000 to 500,000 with Appstar.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, big numbers when you're looking at a startup, right? And just trying to build an MVP. Yeah, get it.
Yeah, so that was like, okay. So I didn't really know what to expect at that time because you don't know how much does an app cost as a non-tech
Mm.
Yep.
person. And either
Hmm.
did my sister. And then we also got quoted, 60. We also got quoted in the middle of that. So there was a lot of
Yes.
different variations in that. The next
Did you understand why the variations existed, or you were pretty much unknown as to what the
No,
variations
I
could have
didn't
been?
know. I
Okay.
don't think as a non-tech person you can really
Yeah.
understand. Like now I can reflect and I would ask
Hmm.
different questions such as
Yes.
Hmm.
how many people are you going to have in my team, who are you going to put
Hmm.
on, how much time. I was kind of I could see that in Australia there was not going to be any dedicated team at all
Okay.
projects. It was
Okay.
going to be
Yep.
days that were going to be allocated. now reflecting back,
Mhm.
I understand it in a different way. But back then,
Mhm.
I just thought, different people had different prices. At that point, I started asking about the framework that
Mhm.
they're going to use.
Yep.
And Australia was pushing WordPress like crazy. These smaller firms,
Mhm.
like not Appstar, obviously, because they're in the mobile.
Yes.
But WordPress was being pushed a lot to
Mhm.
me, and I was very reluctant of WordPress because I was kind of, in my mind, I was like, well, Airbnb didn't use WordPress, so why am I being pushed
Yep.
WordPress? And if WordPress was so good, why didn't we have the top e-commerce and marketplace apps that I've known
Mhm.
use WordPress? So, but I was saying that, WordPress can do everything, WordPress can absolutely do everything now that I look back,
Yep.
but it wasn't the right, framework
Mhm.
for the kind of product I wanted, the kind of customization I wanted. The backend would never look like what I needed for my business, but I was being definitely pushed that way because people were very used to working on WordPress. So when you're building out these kind of ideas that are unique and everything, and you're sometimes approaching development companies that only do websites, they don't have the potentially this kind
The
of
capability to
experience.
deliver that, right? So, and you mentioned that there, they will push what they're used to doing. So, um, like for us, we're .NET and app developers. So, predominantly the frameworks we'll work in is .NET, because that's what we know,
Yeah, we wouldn't
and that's
suggest
what we're
anything else.
proficient in. And we're predominantly targeting more of a corporate world. So that's where we position ourselves. So to come to us, you'll probably get a .NET application wrapped up with a React Native application. That's our pocket, and that's what we're efficient in. If you're going to a WordPress developer, yes, they'll basically say, yeah, we can do it in WordPress, and they can deliver it in WordPress. But if you're looking to build an MVP, it may be an option for you because but you need to be prepared to say, okay, we're going to build an MVP, but maybe we might have to scrap this in a year or two to build a scalable model. That is an option for a startup. It is.
Yeah, and then if you're approaching web developers to develop your platform, then you're going to be focused around that and any sort of web-based CMS that they work with.
Yeah, that's going to be their focus.
There's a big difference between what we say as development and what they say as development.
Yes.
Exactly. I think at that time I had no idea why. Like now, I know that WordPress, if the backend would never have suited me, like the benefit of WordPress, and I love WordPress for what it offers for e-commerce solutions or like, businesses. But what I needed, the kind of data I needed Ghost login from the back, and I wanted it to be really easy for me to, have those kind of features. And that was a very custom thing that I was looking for, that journey I was looking for. So, but I think with me now, I look back, maybe I wasn't even clear very much what that was. It's always hard for, anyone at the beginning when they've got an idea or they want to do something. It's easy to say, oh, they're just pushing WordPress on me. Maybe it was also my part of how it all looked wasn't clear, because you're about to go through the journey of doing that wireframing, right? You don't absolutely know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something happened. I was confused about, I think every non-tech founder will be confused. Oh, well, what frameworks do I use? What do I do? I think you got to trust the team that you end up choosing to lead you down that path. I think that's really important, that team that you choose, if they're experts, they will guide you, and you just need to choose the right team. And that choice is about chemistry, about who you feel comfortable with. It's not about who I think is the most tech, savvy or anything like that, because that was the big learning was for me, was that, I did make wrong choices in going with teams because I was like, oh, I'm non-tech, I have to trust other people to make that decision. But business comes down to always that relationship, and the one that you can trust and the one that you can gel with is probably the one that's going to take you through and get that execution right.
Yeah, and that relationship is key. You have to get that right. You have to be comfortable with the team you're working with, and they have to be able to be comfortable with you as well.
Exactly.
So you can solve problems as they come up and do what's needed,
And
not just push an agenda like you're saying some of them were.
It's important that you can have trust in the team that you're working with, because there are going to be challenges that come up where things don't work, don't go to plan, and you have to have that trusting relationship where you can share openly and say, listen, this is not going in the direction we think. We might have to change tack here. and it has to be a working collaborative relationship. So if you're looking to build some tech, that's some advice I put out there. Look at some collaborative relationship that you can share. It's a good point, Mal, that you made there, because in the end, it is a very collaborative thing, especially in the startup world. You don't really know what you don't know. So you're defining the product as you go. So you got to be open to be flexible in it. Yeah, your team has to be flexible too. So if you're engaging with a team that's rigid and just wants to do X, Y, Z and doesn't want to change, that can be problematic as well. So it is a fine balance there.
And budgets are important and cost, but it's not solely related to who's going to give me the cheapest development, which we see a lot of people coming to us as well.
Exactly. Like, I think, what happened with me was, so because I was non-tech and my sister's patience and love for me was running out pretty quickly, that, I think if you don't pay if you're not paying someone for that help, it runs out pretty quick. And I think, looking back, like, you shouldn't depend on that free help for far too long, because it becomes a burden on that person, no matter who they are, even if they're your, blood. So I had to, at that point, when I came to finally making that decision of who I go with, she was like, she had to focus on her uni. So I was like scared to make that decision because I was so confused by all the frameworks and what people were saying. So I had to actually engage a tech advisor to come on board with me and start taking these interviews and help me choose a team.
Right. Yeah, good move, because trying to decide on something you don't know is very challenging. So what sort of advisor did you get on board? Tell us a bit about them.
So I got he was sort of like a CTO level for like BP. He'd managed remote offshore teams in IT before. He was quite, senior in he was into the more project management at this time in his career, I would think. And probably I reckon he would have left behind programming maybe 20 years ago now, looking, at his. So
did you find that challenging that he wasn't up to speed with the technology itself?
I found that he was very good at creating the documentation that would be able to and set up in Jira, which then would enable the programmers to really understand what to do. That's what really his strength was. And he would be able to review code, but when you review other people's code, everyone codes a little bit differently. Like he can say that looks pretty clean or that looks okay, just comment it out. But he could look on a high level, but he wasn't by no means at that point in his career programmer. I think the stacks had moved on. He wasn't able to tell me, like the stack that I was offered was CodeIgniter stack on my first build, on my first custom build, because I had to build it the second time, by the way, because my first programmers wasn't able to deliver, which my tech advisor found me. So
what
they used
on that there. So what were some of the challenges that you found? Was it the technology that was picked? Was it the team that wasn't able to deliver? What was the challenges that you found?
I think the team was not capable, and maybe the framework is obviously a bit older framework. Now that I got advised on that much later, that there was better frameworks, and better means being able to build it quicker. There's more libraries available in Laravel, for example, and much more quicker to put together pieces. So better as in more improved. But let's talk about, so my tech advisor came on, and because I was paying him a large sum, he said, look, we can go remote because I'm here. So I'll manage the remote team for you, and I'll find the remote team. We don't need to use Australian team right now because I'm here, Like I had to,
get it.
So I've got the Australian person that's tech that will oversee so I, obviously I didn't have the confidence to go direct with this team who I've never been through it. But now that I've got this person that I'm paying a large consultancy fee to, I thought that would make sense that, and I think, Andrew, you've done that, and you've said, like people have engaged you to look over teams that are working overseas so that they, I think that's a great way for founders. Like if they do want to go offshore, like if they don't feel comfortable, they can use someone else. And I was looking for that kind of structure. So that's what I used. And he found me a team in Kolkata, India.
Yes.
And I was very excited about working with Kolkata because they spoke Bengali, which was the same language that had been, had in my family home. So I thought,
Yep.
oh, well, communication won't be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great barrier. I can talk to them in my own language.
Yes.
But it didn't matter, so whether you speak the same language or not, because what ended up happening, it wasn't a communication issue because I could speak to them in my own language. It was, I think they picked up a lot of junior developers and put the dedicated team together for me. And these guys were just, stuck on, maybe they didn't put the right team, like they didn't have a JavaScript developer, and that was quite important in how things moved. And they were just always stuck on, things like booking tools and how to do customization as per my vision. They were always stuck. They were just trying to find solutions that were already developed from the, from the galleries that were in that framework. That kind of, they just didn't have that technology experience. Experience was lacking in customization.
We find that a little bit, and we've been exposed to that, like you mentioned. We've been brought in and advised on projects that have gone pretty sour with overseas tech teams. And the ones that generally don't work are the ones that bring on little to no experienced developers. They're very junior. They jump into stuff that they don't really know. One example was a Unity project. This company had never done any Unity development, game development before, and they said, "Oh, we've got a senior guy." And we ended up finding out that this senior guy had 3 or 4 years experience in what was it, PHP development.
PHP or something,
and he had no Unity development experience. And then he's managing 2 juniors underneath him, and it's like no one has any experience on this team.
So when we first asked, is a lead Unity developer is what he was being touted as.
Yes.
So we've also seen the less qualified people being brought into teams like you had experience yourself, and we've also seen from Eastern Europe highly experienced teams who just ignore us.
Yes.
So they know what they're doing, but they ignore us.
Yeah. So they won't communicate.
Do things themselves, and they don't communicate.
Yeah.
So you either communicate a lot and they don't know what to do, or you can't communicate and they think they know what to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. That's so interesting that you say that. That's what I experience as well in my developers, in my top developers. It's like they don't need to talk.
They don't want to talk probably.
But we need to talk to understand what you are and where you are.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the difference between a purely dedicated developer and someone that's more of a BI, a business analyst, project manager, consultant, and can step out a bit and understand what the code means with what the requirements are.
I want to give one tip, I guess, while we're talking, what was the issue that I now look backwards to that team, because I trusted blindly, but that team lead or the person of that team that was the CEO of that IT agency, he was non-tech. Okay. So as in non-tech to the point that I think he was just a business person. Like he didn't have the ability to set up, maybe Jira. He didn't have any kind of, when I look back, tech. But what I was attracted to, because he was a founder of a particular business already, I thought, maybe he knows and he's done his own product. And that's what everyone's always attracted to, that someone's executed before. So that's why I went with him. But what I soon realized was that I would definitely recommend, like, if you went with an IT agency, that at least, one of the CEOs or one of the CTOs, they should be a programmer with a business acumen, or they've got a partner in business as well. Like, like me and my business partner, like yes, I'm the business person, but I understand tech, and he is a tech person, a programmer, but he understands business. The IT agency I went with originally, he was just a business person, like he was just like, knew how to buy time. That was what
so that's selling time. Okay, get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was, I think, maybe I relied so heavily on my advisor at the time to pick the right team, and it's a luck thing, as well. It's not, I can't blame him. He thought that he was putting a good team together. But yeah, that was something I would give other people, that just make sure that one of the CEOs or one of the really leads that are going to be part of your project management team are a programmer and someone that you get along with as well.
Okay. Oh, you said luck there. Sometimes I don't believe it's luck. I think it's more you don't know what you don't know. And given that state where your advisor was more of a project manager, he wouldn't know the capability of what's been delivered. Sometimes you don't know the questions technically to ask a person or a technical person to get an understanding of the level of quality.
Yeah, especially if it's been a long time since he was a
Yes,
developer.
I see there's obviously a gap there clearly that he was out of the development framework for quite a long time. So, yes, great person to have on board, but also the way we operate, and I think we mentioned we've got some overseas developers now, but we've got some really experienced tech guys in our business in Melbourne, 7, 8, 10, 12 years plus development experience that actually design, engineer everything and pass it over. So then a developer knows exactly the steps and what they need to do and how they need to do it, and we can actually qualify and verify what's delivered. So there's a different level when you can actually qualify what you're getting back. So if you don't know standards, you don't understand how things should be developed, you don't talk about continuous improvement in your development, people aren't learning, people aren't evolving the way they deliver. If you can't pick up on that, then you're going to have a lot of challenges. So
And if you do have a team of juniors like that has been given to you that you've taken on,
yes,
they need to have a senior
yes,
who is a tech lead to help them when they're stuck. So what was happening with this team was they would get stuck, right? And be like, I'm stuck on this
yes,
situation. And they couldn't turn to their CEO in their business because that person wasn't
no technical
a programmer, right? And they couldn't turn to me, but what they could turn to was my advisor, and everyone would turn to him, but he hadn't been in the hadn't programmed at that point 20 years in his and he would give guidance, and he would say research this or research that. But right now, for example, like with my business partner or with my tech team leads, they are 7, 8 years experienced. They've come across they've built so many enterprise level programs that they can sit and give. Someone needs to be able to give the juniors, like if maybe that team that I had wasn't so bad with the right person.
You're right management, right?
Guiding them. Because when you get stuck as a programmer, you need that assistance to be able to push you back and tell you how it works and give you some drawings that, this is how you need to resolve it. And then you can probably continue on. Because when you get stuck as a programmer, you could get stuck a week, or you could get stuck for like an hour, and you could get up. So that was the big learn for me. That
not very good.
Yeah, you need to have that expertise you can rely on and call back to, just a different way of thinking, or they've already had that problem before and being able to help you solve it.
Exactly. And that's why I think I don't love the freelance model myself, because that one person is building for you and you think that's cheap and that's good. I don't know what that one person, if they're stuck, they're sick, or whatever happens to them, what could, like, the risk of I got, screwed from a 3-person team. And imagine, I just couldn't imagine having that one person, and that one freelancer will definitely take on multiple jobs. It will not be your project only that they would be. So they would be spreading themselves, one person across multiple things. So you would potentially get very little time. So I'm always very now wary of freelancers and 1-person teams or 2-person teams, because it's just kind of I've not had a great experience, and I had a bigger team than that, when I first tried to do my MVP.
Get it. So some good learning there in terms of some tips there as well. Look at a team that's got some expertise. They've actually delivered some products. They've got some quality experience within their teams. They can have juniors, like you said, but you need someone that's got some expertise, that's got years of experience and delivered. Some
like at least 7+. I always think is a good, number in my mind now after looking.
Well, when you get to that level, you've seen a lot of things, you've solved a lot of problems, and it's not about the technology anymore, it's about the problem solving. So provided that you've got those problem solving skills, you can go and find a solution, and you know how to actually think about a solution. I think that comes up a lot with you, Anth, where a couple of our junior guys, and our junior guys are 3 or 4 years experience. We don't have anyone less than that at the moment, but they might get stuck, and then Anthony just knows another way to just think about it, or Gordon pops in.
Yeah, just someone's seen something different, or just they haven't considered that because they're just going down the one path.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about just someone that can think.
And that happens to me too. I can get stuck on the same path just because that's how I think sometimes.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, so now you're in a position where you've basically tried all these teams. You've gone overseas, that didn't work. What was your next step? So you've got this three or four man team that you've managed, that failed, Code Igniter. Now you've gone
Yeah.
to Laravel. How did you approach the next team that you went about going?
Yeah. So I learned the Jira programming. I learned to review code in that amount, and then I had to fire everyone. And it was the
Okay.
most depressing. Like, I was so scared. What do I do now? I've got this code, and
Mhm.
yeah, I was so, and someone told me about Upwork at that time. So at this point, I was like, oh, okay, I might try this other method, but I was like so shit scared at this time, going, what do I do? But I'd spent so much money in this advisor and in this tech team, and I'd lost, a whole lot of money, like not small money, like we're talking, close to $50,000 at this time had gone
Okay.
from my
Mhm.
pocket. So there was no way.
And you're not the only one that's gone through that. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
scary to think that there's so
yeah,
many tech founders that or non-tech founders that are looking to build product and just spend it on the wrong teams, building the wrong things, and just it's completely wasted. But there's one thing you can get out of it. There's a learning experience that you've actually paid for,
yeah.
and which will step you forward to the next step. So
I think that's the best way to look at it, is
Mm.
like I learned a lot,
yes,
and that's what made, and the resilience of being able to go again on the same product,
yes,
I think, is, so I went to Upwork first,
okay,
and I put out my tender on
hmm,
that because I was very clear on my storyboard. So I had the whole Jira, everything had been written very
hmm,
clearly with designs attached to each story.
okay,
And I received like 200 or something applications, something ridiculous, and I didn't trust anyone because I'd been so burnt. So I just kind of asked all the top, I don't know, 20, that if anyone would do a free trial for me, and everyone obviously refused, thinking like that's like mad. But then this one person was like, okay, I'll do you a free trial for like a week or something. And I was like, okay, because I just wanted to see and test them out because I was like so scared to lose
Mm.
any more money.
hmm,
And he ended up, the fact that he did the free trial gave me so much
confidence,
confidence,
yeah,
and then we ended up getting along. And I don't know, it was just like the fact that he was the only one that was willing to understand the situation I was in. So I
hmm,
knew then at that point already, because so many people had reviewed the code, that the code was unusable and that we would have to, rebuild from scratch. And he did show me some fixes of the, code igniter. He showed me some stuff, gave me confidence. And then I ended up just going and just taking a punt and saying, you know what, let's see if this works or not. And I will pay him when, he reaches this objective and this objective and this objective, which was kind of what I was kind of doing with my previous team. But this was kind of, I think I was just like, oh, if it fails, like it's not going to be as expensive as it is on my first go.
okay,
Because
But did you end up
I was
getting?
just trying to, protect myself at this point.
Yeah.
Do I think Upwork is great? No. I think I got lucky
hmm,
at that point. I think it was like I had so much bad luck that something had, gone in the right direction, that I'd found a good partnership. And I think that partnership was only good because we became friends in that development, and we became trusted, and we had a good chemistry, good connection, good understanding. He knew what I'd been through, was very empathetic towards me losing all that
mm,
money, me being, and he wanted to show that there are good programmers out there, and he wanted to present the tech as a tech team, a better tech team for the tech community. And he was very passionate about tech community. And there was just a couple of things he said, which I really think that, sometimes you've got to listen out for when you're choosing that right
hmm,
partner. Things that I would never have expected from anyone in Pakistan. He was from Pakistan, and it was like my least preferred country because originally Bangladesh and Pakistan didn't get along. But you've got to push all that stuff to the side and think about chemistry. And he said to me that he was very focused on trying to get a team. He had a very small team, three or four, and he was trying to get a balance in women and females in his team. which really appealed to me that someone from there is trying to do that. And he's like, I always try and get my QA in one program if I can to be women, so we don't have bias in our program. And that's something that he was really passionate about, and he just kind of dropped that in as in a very normal conversation, not trying to sell anything, but it was just like and I really liked that I felt like, wow, he's thinking so much beyond like it showed me who he is as a person and what kind of person I'm dealing with, and it gave me confidence. And he ended up actually getting my custom build up and launched within 3 months, which was exceptional for the amount of features I think that the platform has. Maybe because some of it was already built, you could see some of it. That's why it was looking back so fast, because I don't want anyone to again come to me and say build my marketplace in 3 months with that in 3 months features. But he did an exceptional job. He was an exceptional programmer. He went to a top university there. Very experienced team. Everyone had 5 years plus. That had three programmers dedicatedly working with a QA. So I had a JavaScript programmer, I had a front end, and then I also had 2 back end programmers with 5 years. So you can see the kind of quality team I had, who were very experienced in the Laravel Vue.js at the front. So just a really, top quality team that just sat there and went for it and punched it out, and they put all other projects to the side to really help me get this launch. And I love that. I love the dedicated model, when people do work for you that dedicatedly and they're not taking on other projects. So it was really successful, and the product that went out is something that is people look at it and go, wow, I can't believe that was built in 3 months. And so yeah, they did really well. I do think, Andrew, I did get lucky on Upwork, I will say that.
Oh, it was a bit of luck, but you would have had some experience and learning. So that first week, you would have been assessing based on what you got previously. You've obviously put out some more information around Jira and what your expectations were. Your product had been more defined. So you got to understand that is also important. So that week, maybe you got the wrong person again, but you probably would have picked it up pretty quickly, given the fact that what you've been through. So yeah, sometimes it's luck, but it's also luck of...
I think you're right, Andrew. Like now, if I used Upwork, I know how to screen. I know what questions I would ask. I was very, very specific at that 1 week that we had the free trial. That one thing that needed to be resolved was the calendar functionality, which that team was stuck on for like almost 2 months. And I wanted to see the delivery of the calendar functionality working very smoothly. And that meant they needed a very good JavaScript programmer on board, and they had that. So if they didn't have that, maybe they couldn't.
Yeah,
so you're right. I think giving tasks where I found things that were challenging was an experience that, let me give one task and let me see if they can achieve it. And that was from project management, learning how to test teams for outcomes.
Yeah, and it's all about skill based. The only thing that you may get a little bit stuck with there is not knowing how long things should take. What gave you the opinion that it would take a week to fix this? That would be the biggest question I ask, because some people may not know how to assess that.
Yeah, I knew that it couldn't be done in a week, right? So I knew that it was going to be longer, but the fact was, can he show me progress?
All right. Mm-hmm.
And so if he resolved that in a week, he would have maybe that's too much work, because it was that was one of the hardest functionalities I knew. But the fact that he was able to show progress and show this has been fixed, this has been done, so you could assess that this person can get there, because if they've achieved this in 1 week, it's probably another 10 days left until they can really finish it. So that's what I was assessing. And I think this is from experience in tech and seeing the journey 3-4 months before, and how that previous advisor was, testing them and everything. I think it's an experience thing that comes with, okay, they've gotten here. This is the last leg of it. It's only just a few more tweaks there, but the functionality is coming and something is happening when I press this and press that. So that's an experience thing, I think.
So at this point, you've lost the advisor as well?
Yeah, right? The advisor was gone as well, because I felt like he told me not to fire that team and keep going with that route.
Okay.
And I just felt like we're not on the same page anymore. And he actually agreed that I was able to control programming and Jira so well that he didn't feel like he was adding any more value.
Okay, so he
Um,
actually
it-
educated you in that space, and you'll be able to take over his sort of step. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, very good.
All right.
So the advisor's no longer here. He wanted you to stick with the team. Sometimes you have to cut your losses, though. So I think commend you for actually taking the punt and actually doing that. So cutting your advisor, and then also cutting the team, and then starting from scratch. So it's a huge risk that you took, but in the end, was it? I think your other options were sticking down the same path where you knew that you weren't getting what you expected. So yeah, sometimes you just got to cut your losses and move forward. So if you're not getting good tech and you're not getting good development, generally what's been, like you mentioned there previously, the code had to be pretty much scrapped, and we've seen this time and time again where the level and the quality makes it more problematic to actually stick with the code. So yeah, examples are the codes basically what you've coined spaghetti code, where everything's all over the place. You've got copy and pasted features and functions all over the place. There's no
yeah,
reusing of anything.
yeah.
You haven't got any automated testing in your codes. There's a lot of red flags if you don't have any sort of structure and sort of following protocol. There's no protocol being followed. So
That's just for how the code's written,
Yeah.
let alone how it's implemented, and if it's the right things, and if they've understood the requirements correctly. And
Exactly. I think there was a lot of copy and paste.
Yes.
There was so many bugs that would come again and again from one
Yep.
little change. And I think it's not fair on the new team. Like the new teams will always say, yes, we can try and fix it, but now you're just going down the same rabbit hole potentially. And you can't hold anything responsible to the new team because they're just going to always blame the
The code.
previous
Yeah.
code.
Yeah.
The code.
Yeah, it's the code's fault. Yeah,
The
this is what we're
code's
given.
fault.
But it's in reality, I think people need to be aware that if you're handing over code that is pretty much should be scrapped, you're just trying to hold on to what you've invested into in the past, and
Yeah.
it's going to cause a lot more trouble moving forward. So you need to really say, okay, we've got a good quality team here. They can deliver. They're telling us the code isn't great. It's just causing more hassles than it's worth. It basically hasn't delivered an outcome really yet. So what's the likelihood of it delivering one now? You just got to reassess where you're coming from, and I think it's really, really important to take note of what people are telling you. So if you're getting that feedback, listen.
Yeah, yeah. It's and even when now I see, it's easy for programmers to
Mhm.
say it's not the code that I
Yes.
built, and that's why it's taking me longer to decipher it with someone else's. Like, that I'm saying, like, honestly, that's what my own team could
Mhm.
say about the person sitting next to them, that they're sitting next to that built the,
Yes.
whole program.
Yeah.
So imagine they're sitting next to each other and saying, he built it. And that's your team lead. He built it now, that's why so imagine, if it's another team and
Yeah.
that they can, so I think I did the right decision, but I also had the code reviewed by 4 other teams who told me that the code wasn't, usable. So I had pretty
Okay.
good confidence.
Mhm.
And those teams I also considered Russia and Ukraine as, development teams because I'd heard they were so excellent in their programming at that time. So I considered every avenue and I knew that the code was not usable. And that was by 4 teams that had confirmed that.
Yeah, and that's taking a step back and getting not just one man's opinion. So it's good to get a few teams to actually step in and have a look at the code. So the more
Yeah. And if you have to pay for that, for someone to look at that, like I think it's worth it to get that comfort if you're not
Yeah, you can only make that
you're
decision.
not like technical yourself
Mhm.
and you want to make sure that is it. So I think sometimes, when you've spent that kind of, if you're building something this kind of big level, enterprise level, like you've just got to be ready that there's going to be out of pocket expenses that you can't imagine.
Yeah, you just have confidence to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you need to pay a little to get those opinions to give you validation to move forward with what you want to do, then I think sometimes I've had to do that.
So what's the next steps for Fine Book Beauty? So you've obviously got an MVP, you've got things that are actually live and running. Are you continuously developing that? What are you doing right now?
So right now, Fine Book Beauty, after we launched the first 4 months, we just were focused on the product, continuing to improve as we found out how users were coming on, any kind of issues that they were having. I started pitching the idea, and then most recently we've just brought on a co-founder, because from Fine Book Beauty, what happened was, as I was pitching the idea on stage, people started approaching me saying, hey, can you build me a marketplace like similar to Fine Book Beauty?
Get it.
And
yep.
Can we use your tech team, but we don't want to use your tech team unless you're involved.
Okay.
Because you've used them. And that's actually something I was never expecting, because my whole thing was, Fine Book Beauty all the way.
Yes.
And that's my baby. So I didn't expect that in the launch at the point of December, that I would be approached to be contracted out to then, build other marketplaces and help other founders or help other business owners to launch tech. That was not at all planned. It just happened to land on my lap, and it was good contracts, like it wasn't small amounts. And I just took the leap that sometimes this can happen in life, where some things come. And so I flew over to Pakistan, met my team that had done Fine Book Beauty, to see, is this something viable that I can invest into, that we can actually grow, and does it make sense? What's kind of the infrastructure over there? That was something, and I wanted Fine Book Beauty to have its own IT, tech team anyway. Like it would be a huge differentiator for me in the market to be able to have my Fine Book Beauty have a tech team that could continue to develop it, or any kind of issues that it had, that I had that on hand. So when I went there, I saw the environment. I got a little bit more closer with the programmer and the founder of the firm there. They only had like 3-4 people at that time.
Yeah.
That was the full team that built Fine Book Beauty. And we hung out for like 7-8 days. I went there, and then I came back, and we decided, we're going to do it. And we'd already landed the contract. It was just me confirming that I wanted to take this journey from my career was, in banking, and I thought I was going to be the founder of Fine Book Beauty, and that was just going to be the only thing that I would focus on for the next 24 months. To all of a sudden, bam, we're running like an IT agency, and then we're delivering.
That's a bit of a shift, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like kind of a bit, but I think I love the whole journey of building product, because I had such a bad time, but it was such a big learn. It would be kind of it wouldn't be fair for me not to continue to do the thing that I've learned, which I love, is designing every wireframing. I love that. And then taking it through and, setting up the projects. I think I love that. So it just happened to be, but now that became a pretty real business all of a sudden in the start of the year. And then for Fine Book Beauty, I lost a little bit of distractions for those 2 months, because all of a sudden this is falling on my lap.
Shift, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I didn't want that, because I want Fine Book Beauty to be very successful. So I put out, I put out an ad basically saying I'm looking for a founder in that. And that took 2-3 months to actually do and lock down. And then the founder came on. So I've been talking to her for like 3-4 months, and she came on about 2 months ago into the business. And she's now, at least, there's someone constantly thinking about Fine Book Beauty every day. And I'm there as well, but at least I've got some person that's actually running that team of people and helping move that. So our focus obviously for Fine Book Beauty is, now that the product is all good, all very scalable, we've got plans to launch Fine Book Beauty into Pakistan, because I've got access there, and it's a 300 million population.
Yes.
So we want to see the tech at its scale, because Australia is a very small market.
It is not big numbers here, is it? Yeah.
Peanuts. So 400. So we've got like about 450 users right now in Fine Book Beauty.
Yeah, good.
We continue to scale and pick up users every month on month. We are going for increasing bookings. We've had an increase in bookings since its launch. Every month we've seen like slight increases, but in marketplaces it's a very chicken and egg game. You have to have
both. Yeah, it's always
and then focus here and then come back and focus there and be like, oh, I can't get bookings on this. I have artists in Hobart. Okay, now I have to pick up artists in Hobart, then I can advertise. So it's a bit long. It's a long weighted game sometimes. So the game here is that we just want to quickly get some more traction
Yes.
to show investors and raise in that. So we're hoping to start our raise next year. So we've continued to fund it ourselves. So my founder has also put in. So we'll continue to bootstrap until we feel like we're at a stage that we're happy with the performance. So you always want to hold back raising until you can't feed it anymore. And I don't think we could ever feed this giant. It's very expensive, like with the tech and everything to grow it. But we plan to raise in it. But right now we're very focused on acquiring as many users as we can and increasing our bookings per month so we can show a great trajectory to our investors.
So Mel, you've had people now approach you around building marketplaces similar to what you've done, and you've taken a leap and said, all right, let's win a contract. And you've won a contract. Now, are you building team, using the same team? What have you done? And I know that probably spawned Rerio, which is a business that actually helps businesses develop product now. So tell us a little bit about that and where you're at right now.
Okay, so once we won the first contract, we had a very small team of, 3 people. And one thing, what we did was we moved office straight away because they were in a co-working space and I really didn't like the space that they were in. So we took out an office so we could be independent and build our own culture and our own kind of relaxed office. So that's the first thing we did, which ended up being, I don't know, a very smart idea because it ended up costing some of the team members who weren't happy with moving further away from that particular office.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, I've got this team that I thought was going to follow suite and we're giving a better environment to now having to recruit.
Okay, so the lost team as a result, just moving basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I've got this huge contract now.
Yes.
And now I don't have staff all of a sudden to
Mhm.
support, and I don't have the FBB that amazing team that I thought is going to build this amazing product. So I all of a sudden go into recruitment, and I find recruitment very, very difficult at the beginning, because when you're starting a company, people don't know about you. That company had been existent, but we just rebranded to Rerio.
Yes.
That's not known so much in the market. That was hard, but we recruited, we made some errors, recruited again, became really good at recruiting. Recruited a HR manager before recruiting anyone else.
Okay.
And then we did that a few times, a few big rounds of recruitment, letting people go because they weren't well, and then recruiting again. And now we are a team of 16 people altogether.
Nice.
So I think it's a huge achievement in a very short time, in sort of 8 months to 9 months to, grow. So that project is one, that project is delivered at MVP, and then we moved that project that we'd won into custom build, which continues and will be released. We then start looking at the projects that my business partner had worked on already for the past 5 years. He'd already had a business, right? So I wasn't coming in and we weren't like establishing from zero. He had a strong portfolio of
at least
work.
you've got something there. Yeah. So it's very, very good to have that credibility. So you still obviously you started Rerio with the main tech guy from the original company, but you've lost the team members and then started again rebuilding. So you still have that expertise.
I still had the exactly. I had the business. I had the guy.
Yeah, you had the guy.
He's my so his name's Mohammed, and he was my business partner, and we're gonna do this with or without anyone. Like, we're gonna build the exceptional team we want to do. So I have him. So me and him only have each other at some point.
Yeah.
And then we hire a HR manager. She sucked, and then we hired another one. She's amazing. Now that we've got these the 3 of us doing recruitment all the time. We then convert some of his other projects that he had been servicing for 5 years, and I start looking at how to service those projects better. So how he had been servicing them is just giving them a couple of hours.
Yes.
And I start talking to those clients, and they were all USA clients, and I start convincing them to come on a higher plan, which would be less for them per hour, but start giving them more dedicated service, better service. Because what was happening is they were just using that one team to service, a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and no one was really potentially happy under that model. Whereas now I start converting those projects into, hey, we'll give you a dedicated top senior developer that will work for you and for your business. And they were, real estate agent, CRM tools, real estate agent, something like domain.com kind of sites in USA that he'd built from scratch. And he'd built this particular project since he was 13. I think my business partner was 14 when he picked up this project. So he'd had this project
Wow. Okay.
and built this over, from one strand of code to it being like where it was. So we converted that. So we started converting some of these old customers into much more like, bigger clients. So they became more high value clients. So that's what I always like to do, is check your current book to see what's there. And that's something I'm good at, is like relationships and customer relationships. So we start giving them more value. After that, we started like actually creating obviously a website, but the portfolio of work he'd done that he'd never displayed anywhere. So we started showing that off to people. I started showing off my design. So I hired a designer and I started doing a lot of UI, UX work. And if it was sometimes like a mock-up, I would do that. And people started picking up on that on social. And I started getting approached through social. So social being Dribble. People really liked the styling of my designs. It's quite out there. So then I started getting work through the design efforts that I started putting out there. At the same time, remember, I'm working full time as well.
Interesting. Yeah. So you work. What do you do? What were you doing, or are you still working full time? This is now your full time.
I've always helped businesses get access to finance. So I've always worked with CEOs, CFOs, and so I was helping a lot of businesses get to the next level of growth through giving them capital and seeing what they're going to do with that capital, and if the bank is comfortable. So I was always in banking.
Yes.
So I started obviously telling my network at that time that I'm doing this kind of stuff, and through that I got a few other leads and projects, because someone was like, oh, this person needs an e-commerce site. Do you think you can do it? And I was like, yeah, I think I can do an e-commerce site. I've done a marketplace. Like, yes. I think I should be right. So it wasn't, so everything that we were being approached on was custom work, and it was never, hey, just build me out a website, because we were never like pitching that kind of work, and my business partner never wanted to do that kind of work. Like, I love doing the branding work, but it was always like something that had customization is where we really like to work, and he loves to work on, whether if it's like building a custom WordPress theme and pushing e-commerce, but some kind of complexity is always there.
It's a challenge that you're looking to solve, right? So we're in the same sort of boat. Custom development is always a challenge, and it's ideation, problem solving, and it's pretty inspiring when you can take ideas and then deliver upon them and have an outcome that you deliver. So really hats off to you for going down the journey and actually following it through, because some people may have said, no, I'm just sticking with Fine Book Beauty. Opportunities that came to you, now you've actually ran with. So I think that's, hats off to you. Clearly, you're an entrepreneur at heart, so you're looking at always evolving and learning and growing. And that's one of the mindsets that you will need if you're going to jump into any sort of startup or tech development. If you don't have that, you're going to find a lot of challenges, because you never know where you're going to be. So you basically ended up with code, investing 50 grand into code, and most people may have stopped there.
Yes.
And then you went again. And then you found a team on your own, and then basically were able to deliver the product on MVP. Now you've got users coming on board. And then you took another dive and actually put yourself out there again. So what I'm seeing and learning from you, Mal, is you put yourself out there and you figure it out as to how you actually deliver it. So anyone that's looking to jump into a tech project, especially non-tech, be aware that you will need to learn and evolve and upskill yourself during that journey. It's a big journey, especially if you're coming from non-tech background. But then if you look at the journey from the other end, if you are a technical guy and you don't have that business acumen or that end, you need to learn that, or you need to bring people that can actually help you on that end. There's two parts of this. There's great tech, and there's actually selling that tech and getting customers on board. And if you can't do both, you're going to be either one, having great tech and no one using it, or two, having a great idea and no tech to actually support it. So well done for reaching out and actually finding people to actually deliver it, and really cool journey that you're on right now.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on it, and it was great to share.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I know that a lot of people get some value out of this, just seeing what sort of challenges that may come your way. And I think one of the key points that I got out of this was when you were presenting Fine Book Beauty on a stage, people came up to you and asked you, can you help me do this? If you look at what they did, they basically found someone that actually had done this before, that'd been through the journey, that had the problems before and solved them. So if you're actually a non-tech looking for someone to deliver a product, do the same thing. Go find someone that's had that journey, gone through that experience, and we'll be able to guide you down that path. Because if you're just going at it blind and just hoping that you find the right team, the right advisor, sometimes it doesn't work out. And in terms of this story, it gives you a bit of insight as to what may go wrong.
You try and leverage what someone's done before.
Yeah.
The same way we mentioned earlier with a junior and a senior developer. The junior ones should leverage what the senior developers know to get ahead.
Yes. So Mel, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for your time and sharing. Really, really good story in terms of your tech journey. So really appreciate it. And if anyone wants to reach out, Mel is Rario. What's your website if anyone wants to reach out?
How can anyone reach you?
Sure, reach out on rario.com, RAREIIO.com, and you can look on Mellonie Francis as well, MELLONE Francis on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, we'll be sharing this out on LinkedIn, so you'll be able to get some details about Mellonie.
Yeah, we'll put them in the comments once we post it.
And Fine Book Beauty is obviously, tell us a bit about that. That's predominantly targeting Pakistan. Are you doing some trials here? Do you have some users in Australia?
Fine Book Beauty is in Australia only right now.
Okay, so you're going to Pakistan.
Only, so for 12 months, so it's findbookbeauty.com, Find Book Beauty.
Fine Book Beauty, yes.
Nice and simple.
I think I keep pronouncing it fine. I don't put the D at the end, but Find Beauty. Perfect, Mel. Thanks for sharing your journey. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your time.